Hey, folks, and welcome to Last Night This Morning, the Lowly Pro podcast, whatever you want to call it. It's 11 o'clock in the morning on Friday, November 10th. In game, it's the 3rd. Um, but we are fresh off the World Series conclusion, Game 7, which saw the first National League World Series win in MLB Pro history as a historically good offensive Colorado Rockies team took on a historically good offensive and defensive Seattle Mariners team. And the series promised or delivered, excuse me, on everything that we hoped it would in terms of length, in terms of storylines, in terms of heroes, right? So I thought it'd be an interesting way or thing to look back at how this Colorado Rockies team that won this championship was built. Um, and there's a couple ways to look at it, I guess, right? Um, because you could start with, oh, I don't know. I mean, you could start with all kinds of things. Um, but I guess the most interesting one to start with would be Carson Thor himself. And forgive me, I kind of thought I could click into his name, um, and look at his like history. Maybe I can. Let me go here. Manager list. But I know Carson hasn't been with us for a really long time. In fact, if I break this down backwards, he has a team record of, where's my calculator? Carson has a career record of 194 wins and 130 losses, which is a total of 324 divided by what is it, 168 games? It's about 2 years. So this is Carson's second full year in Major League Baseball, Major League Pro. I know he's actually, I think he's some level of professional athlete as well, and outside the MLB Pro world. So in 2 years, Carson took a team that has historically been very good, right? If you look at the 2 years he took over a Rockies team that had won for the previous 3 years leading up to his ownership. 95 wins, 84 wins, 90 wins, finishing second in the division all 3 of those years. Fell back to third the year before, while making the playoffs, and won 89 games. Nothing to sneeze at, right? Um, and then took that team to 105 wins in the National League West in 2023. Now, the West wasn't what it's been, I guess. The Diamondbacks certainly took a step back this year, although, to be fair, it's the best division in the National League. The Dodgers were excellent, but the Giants and the Padres were doormats. The Giants, you see a path forward. The Padres, I really don't. It's a different story for a different day, right? They're not the American League West, but 105 wins in the best division in the National League is very, very impressive. Especially when you consider, I think they had winning records over the Braves and the Phillies over the regular season as well. What Carson has done in 2 years is nothing to be sneezed at, especially when you look at he resisted the temptation to completely overhaul a team that had failed to win the championship. Now, he made some big moves, right? And we'll definitely talk about some of the trades that Seattle has seen over Seattle, good Lord, that Colorado has seen um, throughout, right, his tenure here. And most notably, um, the willingness to part with, I think, in his first offseason. This may have happened before. No, this must have been one of his first moves. So maybe I'm misunderstanding the timeline here exactly. But um, the trade of Jed McKinley, was that Carson? Hang on one second. I can figure this out. Okay, sorry about that. That took probably no time in your world. I had to step off and go look at the trade. So, in fact, he did trade Jed McKinley, but before that, the Rockies actually traded Alex Bregman. if I've completely forgotten about him. I forgot he even existed. Down to Houston in his first move, and he traded Lucas Edgar, I think was a AAA player at the time, and then traded Jed McKinley to load up on talent. Of those three trades, the only person that's made the bigs is Edward Cabrera, and he's a relief pitcher who pitched well for the Rockies this season. 35 appearances, 67 innings, 3.07 ERA, right? So they are still loaded with young talent. Some of those people were flipped. There was like Shane Langoliers and a couple other people they acquired in that trade from Houston were then flipped to the Mets to get Alberto Vega. Oh, by the way, Alberto Vega comes back next year to this team that already just come off a 105-win season with the best offense, and then gets a boost in theory from Alberto Vega joining the rotation. But if you look at what they did, they traded their two best players, aging best players, expensive best players, mind you. And from those two trades, essentially added nothing to the major league roster. Well, I say that. Terry Miller did start, 50 games for them, including, I think, a lot he played in the postseason, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess you had Terry Miller, who, I mean, looking at him is nothing super impressive, but he did start after, okay, this is wild, after a full month of not playing, prior to him playing in the World Series Game 7 deciding fucking game against Justin Hooper. Terry Miller had not played since October 1st. He then gets the start, gets a hit, scores a run, plays solid defense, I assume, is what happened here. But, like, holy shit, was that a bold call by Carson Thor. Anyway, so Terry Miller was acquired, so you can't say he's in the Jed McKinley trade. You can't say he's totally useless because he did play in the World Series game that they won. Hunter Brown, Jim Lawrence is another guy who pitched really well for them. He was another relief pitcher. Appeared in 25 games, 74 innings, started 7, so he kind of went back and forth. And what he was part of, he pitched in 2 games in the World Series. Including Game 7, where he pitched an inning and 2/3, gave up a run, but didn't factor into the decision. But I mean, hey, he pitched in Game 7, so there's 2 guys right there from the Jed McKinley trade. Maybe not the big names you'd expect, but 2 guys that definitely made an impact. Billy Madden, no. Michael Wright also played nothing. He's not the guy I was thinking of. He's in rookie ball. So you think about what he did here, right? Dismantling a team. It looked like that. And I remember being part of the trade talks in the 2022 season where there was a lot of floating around about Hideki Abe being moved, Steve Winter being moved, Wendell Ayers being moved, Krishan Holly being moved, people like that, that are kind of the rest of the core of the Rockies team. There's a real precipice where they thought about completely dismantling this thing and building it back. But they stood strong and decided that they would hold to I guess what they were hoping to do. By the way, you think about this, Carlos Correa, that's why Terry Miller played. Carlos Correa got hurt during the World Series, was out. Manuel Reyes, Ronald Durham, Alberto Vega, all hurt through the postseason. Wendell Ayers got hurt during the postseason. Typically they're starting right fielder. I don't know at what point he was injured. I can look at this 10:30. So he was hurt the day before or during the Seattle series. So he missed the final couple of games. And he'd been hitting really, really well in the postseason, like upper 300s. So all of this compounded, right? I've kind of gone on a meandering talk track here about what the Rockies have done and why it's impressive. But let's talk about this in a more cohesive, fucking structured way. Carson Thor came through, dealt Alex Bregman, dealt Jed McKinley, and then held tight. Went out and acquired a couple pieces this year, right? And let's talk about who they acquired in the offseason and the impact they made. The 2 guys that they added here. And I guess we're skipping over Alonso Martinez, who was I think, actually won did he win the MVP this year? I don't know if that voting's done, but the man fucking should. He 9.9 WAR, 341 average, 410 OBP. Both of those career highs by a fucking bullet. 1.056 OPS, again, way above his career averages. 44 home runs, above career averages. 133 RBIs, way above. Struck out less. Stole more bases than he ever has. Like, the dude just went off for some reason in his year. Still under contract for a couple more at a really reasonable price, but that's not what we're here to talk about because he was here prior. That was an adoption. Carson Thor was adopted Alonso Martinez, and maybe under his leadership, he's done very well, right? You can say that, and they've molded him into something spectacular. Um, but anyway, we'll come back to that. The two players I want to talk about are the two players that he actually went out and acquired in the offseason. And that's Cam Gallagher, who didn't directly take over Jeb McKinley's spot as the catcher, but he definitely did fit in this year, right after the stopgap didn't really work out. He was acquired as a free agent after the Tigers let him walk. The Tigers traded for him along with Corey Seager last year to the price tag of Will Holland, a fairly well thought of second baseman down in Miami, and Gary Hardy, less well thought of and injured at this point. So not a real big price tag for the Tigers to pay. Will Holland hit 200 in Miami last year. Good Lord, what the fuck goes on in Miami? How does everybody just die down there? And never mind, not the point. So Cam Gallagher starts the majority of the games this year. He started 128 games, 2.3 WAR, 264 average, 295 OBP, 19 home runs, 60 RBIs. A return to form, essentially what he was at his best, with a fantastic batting average, which he never flashed in Miami. Again, what the hell happens in Miami? He flashed for sure in Detroit and was able to maintain that in Colorado. His performance in the postseason, though, is where you really need to talk about it. But before we talk about the specifics, we got to talk about Keston Hiura, or Hiura? I just butchered the shit out of that. Another acquisition in the offseason around the Thanksgiving timeframe from Detroit. They acquired in exchange for Thomas Hershiser, old Tommy Hershiser, and Tyler Freeman, a couple of prospects who sit in, well, Tyler Freeman's in Pittsburgh's system now. Thomas Hershiser's in high A for Detroit. Didn't pitch much there, pitched well in a couple of performances. But Keston Hiura, again, not a needle mover guy, doesn't play good defense, probably doesn't play the field all that much. DH is a lot for them, but he's cheap. And both of these guys, huge factors in the World Series specifically. In the postseason, I guess these statistics are postseason specific. I don't know, are they? Either way, Hiura drove in 10 RBIs. Cam Gallagher drove in 10 RBIs. 20 RBIs from two guys assigned. It's the only two people those guys trailed was the only person that those guys trailed on the Rockies was Vidal Brujan, who, why did he drive in 13 runs? I don't know. Why hit 345? That guy looks like he sucks. But these two strategic acquisitions in the offseason, coupled with having guys like Terry Miller, who can come in after not playing for a month and substitute for Carlos Correa, one of the best shortstops in our game, is incredible. I mean, I guess the other actor was Felix Frias, who played the day before, but like this dude played 102 games in the regular season. That decision to start this guy is wild to me, but I guess it worked out. And then Dave Candelas, right, to come in and start for Wendell Ayers down the stretch. It's just really impressive. The Rockies built the team slowly. They didn't go out and build the way teams like the Braves have, where they just acquire everybody all at once, right? Where they went and signed Bryce Harper and they went and signed Masatoru Ohayashi over the last couple of years. They didn't go out like, or they didn't build this thing in the way like maybe the Angels have, where it's just build from the farm, right? And it's don't really acquire much. It's just kind of build them up from the farm and see what we can get. I don't know. I'm just really, really impressed with what the Rockies did. Congratulations to Carson Thor. Let's talk real quickly, heavy, like way too early predictions for 2023 or 2024, excuse me. Again, I know we're changing systems, so who knows what happens. But the majority of these guys, if I am looking at this right, which I will do right now, salaries, 2024. Who comes off the books? Wendell Ayers needs a contract. Alberto Vega needs a contract. Cam Gallagher needs a contract. Manuel Reyes needs a contract. So a lot of guys that were hurt. And Hideki Arata needs a contract. So that's not nothing, right? But you don't see, I'm trying to see, is there anybody that sees a massive spike year one to year two? No. In fact, their player salary, their salary, what's the word? Requirements, or what they're on the hook for right now, is actually about 25 million less in 2024, excuse me, than it was in 2023. If these players all resign, it's about $40 million, right? So someone's taking a pay increase somewhere. It's probably not a bunch of people are taking. It's Keston Hioria goes up about 700,000. Eric Harris goes about 700,000. It's nobody taking a massive increase. It's a lot of little ones. Candelas goes up 2 million. Oh, these guys are all in arbitration. Holly goes up about 2 million. It's a team option. Alonzo Martinez goes up 1 million. Ronald Dunham goes up a couple million, right? Again, the point being they have room in the budget here to go out, re-sign the players they've got, keep the majority of the core intact, and then think about maybe bringing in a piece where it makes sense, because there are certainly pieces to be had in this offseason. You also look at the fact that they have the 12th best system in baseball, um, with one, two, three, four, five top 100 prospects, right, in their system. One, two, three, at least three of them in Double A, so reasonably a shot to make the bigs next year at some point. And a guy like Hunter Brown in Triple A, who could potentially add to this rotation. He looks ready. He looks very, very good. You got to like the Rockies' chances to repeat, especially that you're hearing rumblings out of some of the biggest teams in the National League that there may be ownership changes. There could be GM changes. I've heard rumblings of at least one big team in the National League who is expecting to lose their general manager, their longtime general manager, and see some turnover in the front office. What does that do? Right? Does a team that's won historically get new leadership and decide to tear it all down and open the door even further for somebody like the Rockies? Um, what happens with the Phillies? I know they just got new ownership. What does that team look like now that they've got somebody steering the ship as opposed to being on autopilot for a while? Can the Reds make a jump? Can the Cardinals come back to fruition? What the fuck happened to the Pirates? Not the Pirates, excuse me, the Brewers. They were such a good team. They don't seem to have made many changes, but dropping to 82 wins. Yes, they made the playoffs, but can they bounce back here? The Dodgers seem to be building for a run. The Giants are on the run. Everybody knows what John Hines is capable of when he gets the engine moving, right? There's going to be a ton of pressure on the Rockies to repeat next year, but I think they're set up in a really strong way. Stay tuned. I'm going to try to do something like this every week, and I will keep you updated on the fluidity of some of these positions that we are hearing about, and we'll start doing breakdowns and whatever we can throughout the postseason. Bye.